Hello, 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 and welcome to the Paid Pod. I feel like I'm getting better at this. I used to be super duper nervous, and you guys could probably tell, but I think I'm getting much better at this. So the last time when we spoke, we talked about how saying yes to every single invitation might actually not be in your best interest, right? So, the next time an invite pings in your inbox, I want you to ask, what signal will this yes send? That's the first thing that I want you guys to be asking yourselves from now on. Let me just turn down the light so that my eyes are not glaring. Because remember, the wrong yes is not neutral. It is poison in the wrong hands, I think. There we go. And the right no is the medicine, right? So freelancers who understand that end up building momentum, and the ones that don't end up being invisible. So the stage between invitation and hire, funny enough, even though it's so critical, it is one of the most ignored stages when it comes to, the whole Upwork content ecosystem that I see, and it's the most powerful. Most people actually rush through it. I think the best freelancers engineer it. And so in this episode, I want to show you guys something that I call the pre-close system. So it is basically a sequence, all right, that flips an invitation into a 90% higher rate without ever lowering your price. How good does that sound? Okay, so because invites are not actually the finish line, they're the starting gun. The real race actually starts when you know what to do next. Okay, so the thing is about that though, there's something called a silent decision. Most freelancers think the interview is where the decision is made, and that is actually a lie that keeps a lot of freelancers broke. Because here's an uncomfortable truth. By the time you actually hop on that Zoom call, and I seriously need light, the client actually already knows who they're gonna hire. So I want you to think about that. All of your carefully rehearsed answers, your polished introduction, that portfolio link that you are ready to drop, like it is your winning card. What if all of that doesn't matter? None of that actually matters as much as you think it does. Because that hire was already decided in what's called a pre-close. And if you've never heard of a pre-close before, that's exactly why you're losing clients that you thought that you had in the bag. So let me put it to you this way. Imagine you're playing a football match, right? You are sweating, you are sprinting, you are fighting for every single pass. You think the winning goal just happens in the last minute. But the truth is, and all the soccer people will tell you this, the game was already decided in the opening 5 minutes when the other team set the pace, when they showed confidence, when they planted doubt on your side. And that's pretty much freelancing on Upwork. The interview is not the goal. The interview is the replay. And if you don't understand that, you are already playing from behind. So if the interview isn't where the decision is made, then where is it? And how do you control it? All right, let's go straight into that. So I want to talk to you now about what's called the illusion of the interview. In this instance, I want you to picture a courtroom. Okay, you imagine a trial is where the verdict is decided, right? But the reality is that the judge's mind is already leaning often in one way or another long before they've even heard the evidence. And it's not just that the facts that matter. What also matters, all my candidate attorneys, is your tone, your posture, and the first impressions. And that's exactly what also happens on Upwork. The interview is actually not the trial. It is the performance after the decision is already leaning, right? And that's the dangerous part, because if you don't understand that, then you walk into the call thinking that you're auditioning. Meanwhile, your competitors already closed the deal before you even switched your camera on. And so that's why so many freelancers leave an interview thinking, oh, I nailed it. No, you didn't. You didn't. You simply misunderstood the game. And the real game was over before it even began. So let me give it to you another way so that you can see it. Think of a magician, right? By the time the rabbit appears out of the hat, the trick was engineered minutes earlier. So the audience is clapping for a reveal that's already guaranteed. The interview is the rabbit that comes out of the hat. The pre-close, that's the sleight of hand that happens when it makes the rabbit appear. And it makes that appearance inevitable. So if you show up without that pre-close, you're the magician that's fumbling the cards or sweating under the lights or hoping something really impressive happens because help. And here's where it also gets a little bit spicy. The signals that make up a pre-close aren't big, they're not flashy gestures, they're invisible, they're easy to miss. They're easy to ignore until you realize that they were the only thing that matters. And I'm going to tell you one signal right now. Consistency. Clients really don't care if you're a genius if you don't look consistent. So when they invite you, they're scanning for alignment. Do your words, does your tone, does your timing match? Or do you look like someone that's rushing to catch a bus? So, okay. Imagine you're walking into a restaurant, right? 2 waiters sat down. Thank you so much. One greets you calmly, steadily. They have the menu in their hand. And the other one is out of breath. Their apron is half tied. Their eyes are like darting all around. I mean, both of them can technically serve your meal, right? But only one of them feels super duper safe for you to trust them. And that is a pre-close. So you're not just measured on your skills, you are measured on whether you feel like someone who won't drop the tray halfway through. And here's a kicker, okay? Most freelancers actually miss this. They think replying fast is enough, or being enthusiastic is enough. But consistency has nothing to do with speed or tone. It actually has nothing to do with speed alone or tone alone. It's more to do with alignment. Every single detail about your messaging whispers safe or it screams risk. And now here's where I want to take it deeper. Every interaction that you have with a client is a micro yes. Okay? Yes, this person understands my problem. Yes, this reply feels helpful. Yes, they seem steady. Every micro yes is a rung on a ladder. If you skip one, the client starts to feel shaky. If you hit every single rung, by the time the interview starts, the client already feels like they're standing at the top. And that's the part that nobody on Reddit or Facebook groups or YouTube ever actually tells you. They'll give you the proposal templates. They'll sell you keyword hacks, but they will never explain why clients ghost after great interviews. And that's why I'm here to tell you the reason why they won't do that. The pre-close never happened. You went into the call trying to sell. They went in looking for reassurance, they being your prospective client. And when that reassurance, because everybody wants to be proven correct, like, yes, I made the right decision. When that reassurance never appeared, silence did. So conversation or no conversation, both of them are data. Ghosting is not random. It is not disrespect, okay? It's not your clients being rude. It's a signal. It is the system telling you you didn't close before the call, so I won't close after it either. So by now you can start to see that the interview is not where the decision is made, right? That is the after party. The real decision, the invisible contract, happens in the pre-close. So now let's talk about the levers, right? I talked about the first part, which is certainty and consistency, right? The hidden lever, if we're going to talk about certainty, is emotional certainty. So clients don't actually hire skill, they hire safety. All of last year when we were sending proposals, the number one keyword that every single freelancer was always like, I'm gonna make sure I do this in my proposal. I'm gonna de-risk the hire. Think about that. A client posts a $5,000 project, right? That's not money, that's risk. That's their reputation with their boss. That's their product launch deadline. That's their own credibility on the line. So when they invite you, they are not asking, hey, are you talented? They're asking, am I safe with you? Like, let's picture a pilot. This could be the best trained pilot in the whole wide world, but if they grab the microphone before takeoff and their voice shakes during this announcement, how many passengers are gripping their seats a little bit tighter? Certainty is emotional. It is not logical. And the pre-close is where certainty gets planted. So here's where most freelancers actually end up blowing it. They think selling harder equals more certainty. That's wrong. Let me put it this way. Chasing clients with over-explaining and overselling is like chasing a deer in the woods, right? You run at it too fast and it is like out of here, it bolts. If you stay calm and you stay deliberate and you stay measured, the deer walks towards you. And clients are pretty much the same. Overselling proves you're desperate, whereas when you're calm, it proves you're safe. And that's the second lever of the pre-close, restraint. Knowing that less is often more. Okay, so here's a metaphor that maybe you might not forget. My niece is incredible at playing chess, right? So when you're playing chess, if you're a beginner, you can't help it but narrate every single move. I'm gonna put my pawn here and I'm gonna put my knight here. Look at my strategy. It looks like effort, right? But it signals weakness. So a master chess player doesn't actually explain, they just move. They move quietly, they move intentionally. And every single play only makes sense after, in hindsight. That's the energy of the pre-close. I'm looking down as if I'm playing chess. You don't dump your entire portfolio. You don't rattle off your whole process. You don't drown the client with words. You just drip feed signals that say, I know where this is going, trust me. And that calm silence speaks much louder than any pitch. And finally, the third lever that I want to tell you about the pre-close is the invisible contract. So every single message that you send to the client is a clause. Every single micro yes from the client is a signature. So by the time the interview happens, the contract's already signed in their head. And that's why some clients hire instantly. There's no back and forth, there's no Zoom, there's no negotiation, because the pre-close was flawless, because they already felt safe, so the interview became unnecessary. But the reverse is also true. That's why some freelancers actually end up stacking ghosted interviews like tombstones. Their inbox becomes a graveyard. Every unanswered thread is another reminder that you did not pre-close. And here's the algorithm's really cruel twist. Upwork doesn't watch whether you're invited. It's not the only thing they look at. They also watch whether you're able to convert those invitations. Too many failed pre-closes, the system learns this freelancer cannot turn interest into certainty. And little by little, the algorithm stops feeding you to clients altogether. That's why the pre-close is not optional. It's not. It is survival. It is the difference between being at the top of the search or being buried so deep you might as well not even exist. And actually, I do want to talk about the danger of overselling. This episode's a little bit longer than usual, but this one is so important to me. I want to zoom in on a very, very painful truth. Most freelancers actually kill their own chances, not because they don't have the skill, but because they're overselling. They mistake the client's enthusiasm for certainty. To a client, When you're overselling, you don't look confident, you look desperate. The more you try to convince them, the less convincing you become. So let's say you're walking through a street market. One vendor is calmly arranging the fruit. The oranges, they're bright, the apples are neatly stacked, there's no shouting, there's no begging. Whereas another vendor is like flailing their arms, they're shouting discounts, they're shoving samples in your hand. Which one feels the safest to buy from? That's freelancing in a nutshell. The calm vendor radiates trust. Take a look at what I've got. Trust me. Then the desperate one radiates risk. Small street. Oh my gosh, I don't want to go there, right? That's where the pre-close separates the amateurs from the professionals. Overselling is like really cheap perfume. You know, when you pour perfume, like not by the toilet, a little bit subtle, well placed, makes you memorable. But when you too much, it chokes the room. Clients do not hire the loudest freelancer. They hire the one who feels steady enough that they'll be able to carry the weight, the full weight of the entire project. And that's why pre-closing is restraint. It is learning to stop before you over-explain. It's leaving the room so that there is curiosity instead of filling every single silence with nervous words. It's basically where the deer metaphor comes back. Freelancers think chasing harder proves their value, but clients are like deer. Real pressure is danger to them. So if you chase, they bolt. If you remain calm, they come closer. Or the chess match. A beginner thinks that the fastest way to move is to move quickly, right? You want to flood the board with noise. Pawns here, your knight there. Oh crap, the tower. Who's securing the tower? All of that. But a master knows that it's the opposite. Move quietly, perfectly timed, and that'll speak volumes. And you know what? That is the third hidden lever of a pre-close. Measured silence. Okay, so now let's connect this to why some freelancers think that cheap rates will solve their problem. Lowering your price is not the fix. If you smell unsafe, no discount is going to be enough. The shaky pilot, he can't reassure passengers just by cutting the ticket price in half. First of all, pilots can't cut ticket prices. The point is, passengers don't want cheap turbulence. They want a safe arrival. Clients are willing to pay far more, actually, when they feel certain, because certainty will multiply your value, whereas a lack of certainty will destroy it. And that's why the pre-close is a multiplier. So by now, you can see what doesn't work. Overselling, discounting, flooding the room with words. What does work, though? The pre-close, please think of it as a ladder. Every single message, every single signal, every single interaction is a rung on this ladder. And the only way the client feels safe enough to hire you is when they climb it. So they need those rungs. If you skip a rung, the client wobbles. If you miss too many rungs, they stop climbing altogether. So first things first, let's build those rungs. First rung you need to have is responsiveness, right? Not speed for the sake of speed. Steady responsiveness. That's the difference between someone who replies with calm intent versus someone who blurts out the first thought just to look eager. So imagine again, you ask a pilot a safety question before you board the plane. One of them responds immediately, yeah, it should be fine. But then the other one takes a breath, and then they explain with clarity. There's no rush, there's no panic. Who do you trust more? That's rung number one. Second rung is relevance. Clients don't want to hear about everything you can do. They want to hear about the one thing that matches their absolute need. So it's like ordering at a restaurant. You ask the chef's special, one waiter lists the entire menu. What? The other one just points to a dish that you'll actually enjoy. Which one reassures you? That's rung number 2. Then, rung number 3 is your certainty of tone. That's where most freelancers themselves start to wobble. Their words might be correct, but their tone has a bit of uncertainty in it. So imagine you're texting someone, I hated this so bad. You're texting someone who adds question marks to every single sentence. Sure? I can try? Maybe? Even if the words are fine, the tone starts to feel shaky. And clients pick up on that instantly. So the next rung is those micro yes moments. Each time the client nods along, even silently, you're stacking signatures in that invisible contract. Yes, this person understood my problem. Yes, they replied thoughtfully. Yes, their tone felt really steady. By the time you reach the 4th rung, the hire is emotionally locked in. The interview is just paperwork. And that's it. This ladder doesn't just close clients, it trains the algorithm. Upwork is watching. It sees which freelancers turn invitations into contracts smoothly. And then the system rewards you by feeding you better clients, faster, with less effort. And I feel like it is a positive feedback loop. It's a virtuous cycle because that certainty then creates momentum. And the best way that I want you to picture it is Netflix autoplay, right? When you finish an episode, the next one doesn't ask for permission, it just plays. That's what a pre-close feels like. By the time the interview begins, the client doesn't feel like they're deciding. They feel like they're already in motion. They're sliding into the next step and there's no friction. That's the power of the pre-close. The pre-close does not pressure your clients, it pulls them in. It doesn't force a yes. It makes yes the only natural option. But here's a final twist for you guys. What's the one signal clients are truly buying? And it's hidden beneath all of these rungs. And why does missing this one simple signal collapse the whole ladder? Wow. I want to tell you, clients aren't buying skills. They're not even buying results. They're buying certainty. That's what I want you to remember. Single signal beneath all the rungs of the ladder is certainty that you're going to deliver, certainty that you won't disappear, certainty that they can put their reputation on the line with you and come out safe. Certainty is planted in the pre-close. Think about it. Your portfolio is past work. Your proposal is proof of alignment. But the pre-close is proof of future safety. And that's why some freelancers actually end up getting hired instantly, while other freelancers just stack up great interviews that lead nowhere. Because the hire doesn't happen when the call ends. The hire happens when the client feels certain. And certainty is not logical, it is emotional. It's the steady tone in your replies. It's the restraint in your words, things that you don't say. It's calm confidence that says, listen, I've got you. Most freelancers think that certainty is luck, some magical vibe that you have or you don't have it. But certainty can be engineered. There's choreography, like a repeatable sequence of micro moves that you can take to make certainty inevitable. And that's what I want us to talk about next. Because the pre-close is not just theory, it's a system. And once you understand the choreography, the clients stop deciding, in quotations, and they start flowing towards you. So here's the question that I'm going to leave you with, because this is the longest podcast episode we've had thus far in season 2. If you could engineer certainty in every single invitation, in every single interview, in every client, what would your freelancing business look like 6 months from now? That feature starts with mastering the choreography of the pre-close. And that's the next episode. I hope to see you there. Bye, everyone.